Okay, it looks like everybody was able to get logged on, so we're going to go ahead and get started. As you can tell by the title, our topic today is just prepping for back to school and new members. I know we kind of did a little bit of this last month, but this is just going to have a little bit more emphasis on making sure everything's good to go with all of your new members joining. And then also just the different features you maybe need to set up for them in OmegaOne, such as like study hours, things like that. But I'll go over the agenda in just a second. Before I get started, I do want to see if y'all are able to type in that questions chat. During the webinar, you'll be able to submit any questions you have that come up. So if you want to now just test it by putting in like your name and your chapter, we can just make sure that's working before we go ahead and fully get started with everything. And I'll just wait for those to come through. Okay, perfect. I'm already seeing them come in. So that's great that that's working. My name's Hannah Gunderson. I'll be your presenter today. And then I do have my teammates with me, both Sarah Beth and Amanda, and they'll be able to go through that questions chat. They're going to be answering those throughout the webinar, but if something seems like a good question that maybe everybody may want to hear the answer to that we could go over, they'll save it for the end, and then we'll just go over that as a group. But they are anonymous in the chat, so don't be afraid to put yours in there at any point. We'll be able to answer those questions for you. So moving on to today's agenda, we're going to start with adding new members. I'm going to show you where you can do that, how you can resend invites, things like that. Then we're going to talk about setting up study hours, setting up points, and then linking points to the calendar. And then after that, we'll go ahead with Q&A. And I don't have it listed here, but I do have a screen too at the end that you can screenshot with just some like who to go to information. So the emails and phone numbers and help centers you guys can use to answer any questions as you're starting to go through the process with your chapter. So I'm going to go ahead and switch my screen over to OmegaOne. Just give me 1 second. Okay, so we should be looking at the homepage of OmegaOne right now. I'm on one of our test accounts, so um, don't think this is like anyone's private information or private chapter information being put on blast. This is just something we've made up for you guys. But for starters, we're going to go to this tools section. Everything I'm doing today is going to be in this tools section because as administrators for OmegaOne for your chapter, this is going to be mainly where you're working out of. And we're going to go ahead and we're going to start by adding those new members. So we're going to go to manage users. And here you'll see a list of your current users. You probably have already done this. Again, we kind of covered this in the last webinar. So any of your members who have graduated went like alum, you probably have already switched their member type. But if you haven't, you just click this little drop down. You can click alumni and it'll switch them to the alumni section. You can also get rid of their account if you wanted when you edit it. But generally, we just move people to alumni. And then for adding new members, it's going to be one of two ways. So some chapters have an integration where you enter in your new members, like after bid day, when you put all that information in, it'll talk to our system with OmegaOne, and it's going to automatically put those new members in here for you. So you won't have these add users buttons. It's just going to automatically do it. Also be aware that some chapters have different rules. So sometimes it won't be immediately that they'll import into OmegaOne. Some organizations have it where you have to be a new member for a week or something like that before they'll show up. So if you just added your new members, I know recruitment's going on right now, or maybe you guys just got your new pledge classes. Don't be worried if you don't see them coming in yet. If you want to double check that information I'm going to give you at the end, you can email and just make sure that things are working okay and that it's maybe going to be a week from now that those numbers show up. But if you don't, if you aren't one of those chapters where your database is talking to OmegaOne, you're going to manually add them here. So if you have maybe just a few members, or you don't have, a crazy number, a bigger pledge class like some of those super large schools, you can do it individually by clicking add user, and you'll just fill out the information. Access level, you're probably going to want to make it normal for any new members you're adding. They're not going to be officers, so they don't need that extra access or visibility. So just make sure this is set to normal. And then it should have new member kind of pre-filled in there. But if not, you can click the drop down and just switch it to new member, and you can add them that way. Or you can add multiple users, and it has this nice little directions list here. So you just follow the directions. We do offer a template that you can download, so that way your Excel spreadsheet is formatted the right way, and then you'll just input, the new members' information into there. So first name, last name, email, basically everything you saw on that individual ad user, you'll do it right here. And then you can click upload users and it should upload them as a group. So that'll save you some time from if you have like a 150 person pledge class, you aren't going to have to go in and do that one by one. Another thing I'll have you guys look at while you're here, this is for both new members or active members that you've had. If you know anyone who's having a hard time getting into their account, they can either reach out to our login team or you may be able to help them get into their account from this page. So you can just click this pen icon and double check that their OmegaFi login is correct. So if you go click here and this is their email address and you ask them and you're like, hey, Amanda, is this what you're logging in with? And maybe she's logging in with like her Gmail. Then you can either let her know to log in with her school email or whatever was listed here, or you can change it and then click Save Changes, and that way she can log in. Another thing you can do is click Edit right here, and this is where you can send a login email, that registration email people should get automatically. So if you have new members or active members who are like, I have no idea where that email went, I can't find it, I've searched my inbox, you can just go to their name, click this checkbox here, it'll resend the login email, and then you'll click Save Changes. This, like I said before, is where you can delete members if you don't want them to be returning. So maybe those are the members who have disassociated from your chapter, but I think the main thing at this point most of y'all will be doing, I'm assuming those rosters are updated, will be resending login emails. Just because it's like so important and y'all use OmegaOne just to communicate with your chapters, I recommend maybe at your first like in-person or like formal chapter programming, whatever you guys call it, I would just ask everybody to make sure they're able to log into OmegaOne. Same with those new members. If they have that new member meeting or whatever your chapter may call it, I would have the new member coordinator, the new member mom, whatever they're called, check with all those new members and maybe sit with them, show them how to download the app, log into their account, and make sure everything's working. So that way, when I show you this other stuff, they're able to use all these functions we're about to go over. So moving on, that was all of those new member logins. We're going to go to managing study hours. Now, I know this is a very popular feature for chapters for two reasons. One, you may have maybe just a general rule for your chapter to do study hours. You can do it this way. A lot of times, maybe if you had members who struggled previous semesters with grades, it can happen. We know a lot of stuff's going on in college. There's a lot of stress and responsibilities. Maybe they're on an academic improvement plan. You could manage that here. And then same with new members. I remember when I was a new member, they had it part of just our program getting to initiation would be logging a certain number of study hours every week. This is where you can go to track that. So here you can see it by person and all your members would be listed out. It's a quick way for you to scroll through and see maybe just this week how many hours they've logged. You can see what their goal is, their total. It's all right here. You can also view and edit it. So maybe you have to manually put in hours. I know sometimes if you couldn't log in or maybe your phone died and you couldn't log your study hours, we could write it on like a piece of paper and get an initiated member to sign off, and then we'd bring it to our new member mom and she would put it in for us. You can edit it that way. You can also look at the study locations. So these are the ones you currently have set up. I recommend reviewing these. So I know like when I was in college, sometimes maybe businesses would move or like the coffee shop would close down or get replaced by something else. You just want to make sure that the study locations you have put in are actually what they're meant to be. So this will let you edit them, remove them. So maybe no longer are you allowed to study at Chick-fil-A. You could click this X and it's going to ask you if you really want to remove it. You can click yes and it will take it off. Or like I said, if you wanted to edit it, you can do it that way. If you wanted to add a new location, so maybe you're looking here and you're like, there's a new coffee shop that's opened up and we really want to add it. You can click menu and it's just add new location. You'll be able to name it. So maybe this is a coffee shop we have here in Columbus where OmegaFi's headquarters. We have Fountain City, and then you can do Fountain City Coffee, and it's going to bring it up. So you can just click it. It's really nice. You can search it, so don't feel like you have to really know your maps and have to zoom in around. It'll find it for you. So we can zoom in just to get a little closer. And this is just a quick tip. I'm sure you guys have heard this before if you've been to one of these webinars, but something to be really careful of is making sure that you cover the whole building that is going to be a study location in the circle. So I usually zoom in to see the shape of the building right here, and then I'll click add new marker. And then you'll see this little I don't even know what this is called, this little red pin icon, and you click and drag. So I'm just going to drag it. It's going to fully cover the coffee shop building, and then that way it's highlighted. Now, another cool feature here is you can edit when people can do study hours at this location. So if you know maybe they're not open on Sundays, you can make sure you only check the boxes of the days that they're open. That way you don't have people saying they're studying here on a Sunday when you know that's not a possibility. Maybe they went to like market days downtown instead. I don't think people would lie, but just in case, I know things can happen, or if things accidentally log when they shouldn't, that way you know it's not going to log hours that didn't actually happen. And then you can also put in the start time. So if you know that it doesn't open until 7 in the morning, you can put in 7 a.m. And if you know it closes at 5, it's already filled in there, and then you can save the changes. And that way you have this new study location that your members can log into. So that's everything for study hours. I know, again, it's something that maybe your academic chair or new member mom has to keep up with to make sure your members are meeting those requirements for the year so they stay in good standing. But now I'm going to go on to points. So again, we're going to go to this admin toolbar up here to manage points. And you can see that Sarah Beth has been super great, and she's already filled in a lot of these examples for me, so that way I don't have to go through all of them in this webinar. But the example of the way she has it broken down here is some chapters will make you earn a certain number of points in each different category. You really want your members to be well-rounded. So this makes sure that they're checking those boxes in all the different categories. So they're going to social events, like campus events, chapter events, sisterhood, all of those different things are listed here. So that's one way to do it. You can categorize it. Another thing you could do, again, if part of maybe your new member process is you want to get those new members, feeling comfortable with the chapter, going to events. I know it's scary. I remember my first year, I dreaded going to the house because I was so nervous by myself. If I didn't have like my one friend from midday, I was like, I'm not setting foot in there. But they do put in these programs where maybe you have to check a certain number of boxes. So even if you're nervous, you have to go, and that's a great way to make friends. It worked for me. I'm sure it's worked for you, your members. You can go to menu and you can add categories. So maybe you make a new category and it's called new members. We can add the category, and then you see it filling up here. And then within that category, you can add the different point possibilities. So maybe one of the things is Sunday dinner. I remember that was a big thing for us. You could do Sunday night dinner, and it was just like one day a month we opened up the house for even the members who weren't on a meal plan, and they could come to the house. Or maybe you have different things, but you could put in the possibility. Max score, maybe we'll say 10 points is what it's worth. You can hide it or not hide it if you want. And then you can basically just keep going down through this. So you can go to the category, put it under new members, appeal cutoff date. So if the day that Sunday dinner was for the new members was the 10th, and maybe this was a required event, you could make the appeal the 8th, or maybe it's the day after. They can, get to you and say like, hey, this came up, this is why I didn't show up, whatever it may be. You can kind of fill that in whatever way makes most sense. And in this case, since this would be a new member only point possibility, we'll just remove the regular members and leave new members. You'll also see that I have these two clicked. No matter what, we can't remove those. It's just saying it's visible, which makes sense. It's just a way for you guys to manage these different points possibilities. So you'll leave administrators, officers, and then you just select new members. You can add the points possibility. And then when you scroll up here, you'll now see it listed for your members to be able to participate in. Now, the last thing I'm going to show you is how you can link that to calendar events. So when we go back to this admin tool, we can see all the different admin bars. We can go to manage calendar. And I'm not going to go too far into like the color settings and all of that, because in an upcoming webinar, a little preview, we'll be going over this in depth, all the cool features it has. But I'll just show you really quick. You can add an event, and we'll call this Sunday night dinner. This is the one that those new members can go to. We're just going to check it for the new member calendar, because I'm sure the members know that dinner is Sunday every night, before chapter, after chapter, whatever it may be. And then we'll put in the date. So we'll say it was the 10th was the day that dinner was going to be. It's not an all-day event, so we'll put in the time. It's 5 p.m. and maybe it's until 8:30 is when you have to go to the house. Oh my goodness, this is going to be a lot of clicking. We'll just lie and say it was 8:18. put it in that way. And then you can go down here. You're going to have to make it a check-in. Otherwise, you're not going to be able to link those point possibilities. So we'll say it's a QR code. Just make sure whoever's managing this, if it's like the new member coordinator, that she's there and able to check these for those girls. Um, and then you can click link event to points possibilities, and then you'll be able to go through here and link it. So that way, this event on their calendar is going to link to that points and it's going to record for them. And then basically you just go down here. It'll let you choose notifications if you want to notify, remind people, the date, all of that. Push notifications. It's pretty like straightforward. So you can just go through and see what you want to do for the specific event, and then you would just click add, and then it'll say, great, your event has been added. Okay, got it. And then that way, if we go up to September, and then when you look at the 10th, it would show up listed, or it should show up listed. I may have to refresh my screen, but I don't want to do that because sometimes it'll make you log back in, but it'll show up on your calendar for you to review. So that is the gist overview of everything I wanted to go over. Today is really quick because, again, I know you guys are in recruitment season, and I didn't want to make it too long. But does anyone have any questions that have come through? Or Sarah Beth or Amanda, have you seen any show up in the chat?
I have not seen too many questions.
Okay,
right
let me see. Oh, okay, I just see one that came in, and it's actually kind of relevant to the page we're on. So with these events, they asked if you can set it up for reoccurring. So with this example, if Sunday night dinner is like every night, you can set them up as reoccurring. The only thing to be aware of with that is, let's say it's a reoccurring event, and you fill this in, it's every Sunday of every month, ending never. Even when you do this like passcode based check-in or location based check-in, it's not going to let you link it to the points possibilities, and it'll grayed out so you know that here. And you can click this little question mark, but it's not going to let you do that only because it'll give them the max number of points right away, even if it's multiple days. So if you wanted, to put in every single dinner, if there's multiple opportunities, you'd have to enter them in separate and then link it to the points possibilities, just because if it's reoccurring, it's not going to let you link it that way. So it'd be a little bit extra work, but it is possible. You're just going to have to go in and maybe you would put the dates to be like Sunday night dinner, and you could put like 9/10 and then the following week and do it that way. I'm going to go back to the questions section to see if there's any more. Let me drag this down. Sarah Beth, do you see any more questions coming in?
I do not.
Then let me go back to my PowerPoint. Again, I know this webinar was quick, but I didn't want to go too long since I know you guys are busy with classes and everything. Last chance for questions, but I'm going to go to this next page, and here we have our who to go to. So we do get questions a lot on where you can reach out if you're running into issues or you're not sure how to do things. So I have it listed out here in the two separate sections. Anything related to OmegaOne, anything I went over, if you think something's not loading or working properly, or you can't remember how to find something, you can email software support at omegafy.com, and our team will get back to you and give you the steps you need to walk through that. Or if maybe there is an issue for whatever reason on your account, they'll be able to help fix that for you. The other thing is this in-app get help button. So if I go back to OmegaOne, I'll show you this because this is really great. You'll see up here in red, it says get help. You can click that and it's going to open up our knowledge base. So in here, you'll see it broken down by section. You have OmegaOne chat, videos, webinars. A lot of these things are broken down to kind of match the tabs we have over here. And then you can click into them and it has a bunch of articles. There's like hundreds of articles in here. We're always adding new ones for you guys, so that way if something's missing, you'll probably see it later. If it's like a new feature, we'll write a new article to go in here. Another thing, I know we get a lot of emails about this. If you ever missed a webinar, we do send the recordings, but let's say you forgot to register, so you weren't on that distribution list, you can always go to that get help section, and if you click videos and webinars, we upload every single webinar we've ever done here, so you can always go back, watch last month's, or any of the ones, maybe if it was even before you were an officer. If the topic seems interesting to you, you can always click that and go through it. We also have these different videos just based on your level of access, how you can use OmegaOne. So this is a great resource. The other thing I'll show you is there's the submit a request button up here. If you click this, it'll let you basically choose from a drop-down button what kind of thing you're needing help with. So maybe it's training, you just want more information. And you can go through and fill in these blanks. And this form is going to submit to that same email address I showed you, that software support. So that same team will be able to review this request you submitted and then help you with whatever you needed help with. The other thing, going back to my PowerPoint, is the login question. So if you or your members need help logging in, maybe you are in class, you don't have time to resend their registration email and they need help now, you can give your members this contact information here so they can email login support. It'll go to the team. They'll get them in their account, or if they need help, like they want it immediately, I recommend doing this 800 number. You just listen to the prompt. It'll say like for login help, click whatever number it may be. They can click that and they'll get immediate help. There's never too long of a wait, so that way they can get into their account and do everything without you having to drop what you're doing and help them get in. But other than that, I'll double check to see if there's any more questions in the chat. It doesn't look like there are. I'll give you guys like one last second. And I'll also leave the screen up so you can screenshot. So I'll watch the chat for a few more minutes, but I appreciate you guys joining us really quick. I know it was a fast one, but again, you guys are busy and I didn't want to take too much of your time. And then next month, Sarah Beth will be going even deeper into the calendar and all the different tools we have with it. So how you can color code things and change the audiences and set up the check-in, all of that. There's so many cool features, but it definitely needs a whole time block of itself. So again, thank you guys for joining us. I hope you have a great rest of your semester. I'll watch the chat for just a little bit in case anybody wants to submit a question before you have to go.